Hello book friends, welcome back to my channel. I am a Jen who reads, and this is a non-spoiler review of The Women by Kristin Hannah. I'm excited because this is my first video in my new book space upstairs in my loft, so I'm still messing around with the background and the lighting, and there are bedrooms behind me and in front of me, and there are people sleeping in those bedrooms, so I am trying to figure out the best volume for my voice for the video and all the new stuff that comes with a new location. So I know that I said that this was going to be a non-spoiler review of The Women by Kristin Hannah, but I do have a critique at the very end of the video, and there will be spoilers in that critique. I will give you plenty of time in case you haven't read the book and you want to turn the video off before I say any spoilers. So this book is a historical fiction by Kristin Hannah, and I'm going to go ahead and read you the summary. When 20-year-old nursing student Frances Frankie McGrath hears these unexpected words, it is a revelation. Women can be heroes too. Raised on Coronado Island and sheltered by her conservative parents, she has always prided herself on doing the right thing, being a good girl. But in 1965, the world is changing, and she suddenly imagines a different choice for her life. When her brother ships out to serve in Vietnam, she impulsively joins the Army Nurse Corps and follows his path. As green and inexperienced as the men sent to Vietnam to fight, Frankie is overwhelmed by the chaos and the destruction of war, as well as the unexpected trauma of coming home to a changed and politically divided America. The Women is a story of one woman gone to war, but it shines a light on the story of all women who put themselves in harm's way to help others. Women whose sacrifice and commitment to their country has all too often been forgotten. A novel of searing insight and lyric beauty, The Women is a profoundly emotional, richly drawn story with a memorable heroine whose extraordinary idealism and courage under fire define a generation. I had originally planned to do a reading vlog for this book. I was going to record myself and give an update about every 100 pages or so. This book is a little less than 500 pages, but I sped through this book so fast, I really didn't even have time to stop and give anybody an update. I read this book in less than 3 days. I did give this book a 5 stars based on readability, how it kept my attention, the pacing, as well as the overall vibes. So I don't read much historical fiction. When I do, I absolutely love it. I find that it is one of the most emotional genres that I can get my hands on. Kristin Hannah is my favorite historical fiction author. The first book I read by her was The Nightingale, and it is one of the few books that has made me shed tears. This one is also another book that has made me cry. I was actually reading this on my break at work, and I had to stop because I started crying in my classroom. Another historical fiction book that I recommend is The Salt to the Sea by Ruta Septis. So let's talk about the pacing of this book. One thing that I loved about the writing of The Women was it didn't get me stuck in one place for too long. When I found myself getting tired of reading about the war, Kristin Hannah would introduce a romance. She would also introduce other relationships and other characters to keep my interest. Because let's be honest, reading about the heart of the Vietnam War is not an easy thing to read about. Sometimes we needed something a little different to sort of break up the pace and the emotions. Kristin Hannah did that really well. When the time in Vietnam sort of ran its course and I was ready to read about something else, the main character would leave Vietnam. She went home. Unfortunately, that is where she encountered a whole new set of problems. So the pacing of this book definitely kept me interested the entire almost 500 pages. Now let's talk about the emotions of this book. I already talked about how Kristin Hannah specifically and historical fiction specifically makes me feel a lot more emotions and a lot different emotions than I feel when I read like thrillers or fantasies. This book did not give me a lot of warm, fuzzy feelings. In fact, I don't think it gave me a single warm, fuzzy feeling. It was all anger and sadness the entire book. But that's okay, because sometimes I feel we need to feel those emotions in order to grasp or even kind of understand, or I don't even want to say come close to understanding, because I wasn't there, and unless you are there, you're never going to come close to understanding. But these strong emotions do help us realize the importance of this period in time. The vibes in the setting were definitely 5-star. I felt like I was pulled right into the settings. Most of the action took place in the hospitals in Vietnam. I felt my heartbeat speeding up. Sometimes when it would describe the environment, especially during the monsoon season, I felt like I could physically feel that wetness and that heat. Kristin Hannah did a great job at shining a light on the bad parts of Vietnam, but also the times where the nurses and the soldiers got to just let loose a little bit. I constantly found myself putting the book down and looking up these settings and looking up what these field hospitals looked like on Google so that I could get a better picture of it in my head. The characters in this book you either loved or hated. There really wasn't any in between. Some of the characters did fluctuate between I loved them and I hated them, but there really wasn't anything in between. It was either I really loved them or I really, really disliked them. More than a week later, I'm still thinking about a lot of the characters in this book. Okay, so if you have stuck with me this far, I would appreciate a comment, an emoji, anything that you feel like adding to the comments. And also, if you already are not a subscriber, I would appreciate all your subscribes, your likes, your comments. All of your interaction is felt and appreciated. But this is the point of the video where I might have to say goodbye to some of you, because I am going to get into 2 pretty big spoilers. Okay, so if you're still with me, I am going to assume that you either don't care about the spoilers or you have read the book. My 2 big critiques are, the first one is that there is nothing good at all that happens to our main character. I feel like I was constantly on the edge of my seat, just waiting for the rug to be pulled out from underneath her, again and again and again. Now, like I said before, I feel like sometimes the negatives and the sadness and the anger are important to a book, especially a historical fiction book, so that we can get a grasp of what that time period was like. But by the end of the book, whenever she would get a little bit of a win, it wasn't very satisfying to me, because I just kept waiting for that win to be taken away from her. I don't think that that's necessarily a negative. I think that that is a true reflection on what a lot of women went through when they came back from Vietnam. So that is not a critique of the writing. That's just a critique of what I felt like as a reader. The last thing is that I felt like everybody who was significant to her that passed away miraculously came back to life. So first there was Rye. I sort of understand that. I think that that was a good twist. I was super, super shocked. My emotions where Rye was concerned just were up and down. It was a mountain and a valley the whole time. But then at the end, to have Jamie also be alive, I was sort of like looking around the corner like, all right, where's her brother? Is her brother going to actually be alive? Is there anybody else that she thought that was dead that's going to just miraculously come back to life? I think it was a little bit unrealistic at the end to have Jamie actually be alive. Instead, I would have liked to have seen maybe she met somebody over in Vietnam, somebody that she took care of, somebody that she formed a friendship with, and then they were reunited at the Vietnam Memorial. I just felt like there was too much like, he's dead, oh wait, he's not dead type of things going on. And to me, that made it a little bit less believable. So overall, The Women by Kristin Hannah would highly recommend, definitely a 5 stars. This is an arc that I purchased from an auction online. Before I read it, I let 2 other women read it, and both of them, this is their favorite book of the year so far, and it's definitely one of my top highest rated books of 2024. I cannot recommend The Women enough. So thank you for sticking around. I would love to hear your thoughts if you have read The Women, and I would also love any historical fiction recommendations that you have, because I really do want to start reading more historical fiction. Until next time, happy reading.